We'll make a start to our meeting tonight. We'll welcome you all to the Regeneration Community Committee from Annanoma District Council in the Town Hall in Enniskillen, the 13th of June. And for those joining us via WebEx, I suppose just to say welcome to you all on this new format of committee. I didn't expect to be back in the chair maybe just as quick. I chaired this committee last year as well, but we look forward to working with you all. And getting through the year and progressing the business of this very busy committee. So welcome all our staff and directors here tonight as well. Just the first item on your agenda is apologies. We have an apology received from Councillor Thompson and Councillor Glenn Campbell as well. Just going round the room, is there any others aware of any apologies at this time? No more? Okay, thank you, members. I think we can leave it at that. Item 2 is to sign the minutes and confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 14th of March. There was also a meeting held on the 30th of March, and then both minutes have been signed, members. At this point, item 3, is there any declarations of interest? Okay, we'll move on. Don't see any on WebEx or in the room. Item 4 is matters arising. We'll take the minutes of the 14th of March first, members, page by page. Page 1, page 2, and Councillor McAuliffe, sorry.
Matters arising, Chair. Yep, it's about the A5 informal meeting. I'll be coming on to another matter shortly, but on the A5 informal meeting, obviously, we as a council met with the Tyrone GA A5 Enough is Enough people, and I think we worked well together in the context of the public inquiry which happened and has now ended. So I think I would propose that we write a letter to Niall McKenna of the A5 Enough is Enough campaign, thanking them for their initiative and thanking them for the effort they put in and the work they put in, to mobilise the community or sections of the community to participate in the public inquiry. And that was something that we as a council were very proactive about ourselves. So I think it'd be a good idea to write to Niall McKenna as the recognised figurehead in that group, and also to write to the PAC, if this is in order, the Planning Appeals Commission, and ask for clarity around what are the next steps. Are there site visits, for example, taking place in the summer months? And how long is the consideration going to take before the PAC would make a recommendation to DFA, probably to the Permanent Secretary or whomever, about the A5 campaign? And I had the opportunity myself to represent the council in making a submission to the inquiry, and it was around economic competitiveness and other issues, and thank the team, the directors and everybody involved in helping to collate that paper. I was very grateful for that assistance. So obviously our position is we want the A5 to be progressed without further delay, but my proposal is about thanking and congratulating Niall McKenna and his team for the work they did to ensure that the voice was heard of the community and the people, and also then to the PAC asking for detail around next steps and when they expect to report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McAuliffe. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and just want to come in to second those proposals from Councillor McAuliffe, because it was quite clear actually from the turnout at the various sessions that actually the Enough is Enough campaign really did help provide some momentum and energise people to turn out and to make their voice heard in the latest stage of the public inquiry, and that was enormously welcome. So obviously we look forward to the report from the Commissioner and hopefully just see what the next number of steps are.
Okay, that's a proposal. All agree. Thank you. We'll move. We're just at page 3, members, I think. There's 2 items John's going to bring in your correspondence, 4.1 and also 10.7. So, John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, just in relation to the query that we had from the Western Health and Social Care Trust regarding newly qualified social workers. And the rationale for employing those without going through due process, you'll see there that the Chief Executive has stated is in order to maximise the number of students who begin their careers in the Health and Social Care Trust. And the second piece of correspondence is at 10.7 related in relation to the concerns of the shortage of social workers in the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, and they indicate that the Western Trust have replied in this instance. Thank you, Chair, for an open.
Thank you for them, Joan. Councillor Armstrong.
Chair, and wishing you well this year in the chair again.
Thank you.
Just thank you for the letters. Just want to propose to note, and I'm satisfied that it has been noted, the letter from the Chief Executive about the pressures on the social workers, and hopefully that can be taken on board. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, that's them both letters proposed to note. Can I have a seconder, please, for noting those letters? Councillor Gannon, thank you. Okay, page 3, that was, members. Page 4, page 5, page Councillor McElduff.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. And again, to wish you well in the year ahead,
Thank you.
with you being at the helm of RNC. 6.1 makes reference there to the report on Enniskillen Workhouse, and we're all very proud and pleased with that project. It's absolutely outstanding. The co-working between this council and the college and other partners to deliver that really excellent project. And the finish of the building and its future use, all of that, everybody's very pleased with that. And people like Catherine Scott gave a great talk, at it about its historical importance, at the opening. But I want to mention Omagh Workhouse, and I have a proposal, okay? And I want to make a proposal that this council works closely with the Western Health Trust. And, it could even be the Western Health Trust that delivers this. The Omagh Heritage Forum could be involved, and other relevant parties, to ensure that the site of Omagh Workhouse is appropriately marked to acknowledge the memory of all those men, women and children who sought shelter within its walls, and all of those who died and were buried there. That's essentially my proposal. This afternoon, I walked variously at and through the site, and the clay on my shoes right now is the clay of that site, and I wanted to see it for myself, and the poignancy of it, the idea that hundreds of people, possibly thousands, passed through there and died and were buried there. Now, I won't be able to tell you the numbers, whether archaeological digs discovered how many, or whether they were exhumed, in more recent times, So I'm saying they were buried there at that site. Now, the vision I have for this end product is something like a memorial garden or a reflection space, flowers, a plaque, a seat. And today I was talking to the Western Health Trust, and I was asking them, to clarify as to what land is under their control there, and whether this might be a project that they deliver. So that kind of inquiry is ongoing. But my proposal is that, as outlined there, Chair, and
Thank you.
I think it's really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Catherine Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to second Barry's proposal. And just in reference to the workhouse, that was also the site of the Tyrone General Hospital, where so many babies were born after that, in the years after that. Many nurses from Kappa Parish, for example, have spoken to me about their affection for the hospital that once stood on that site and the many years that they spent working there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That's proposed and seconded. We all agreed. Thank you. Support. Thank you. Okay, members. That was, I think we're on the page 5 and page 6. John has an item on page 6, item 4.2.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's correspondence in relation to the Affordable Warm Scheme and a request for additional monies and to review the scheme. You will see from the correspondence there that the department we're examining options for a 2-year addendum to the existing business case, which ran out on the 31st of March. However, members will be aware of the correspondence that was at the council meeting last week in relation to the Affordable Warm Scheme and the transfer of that scheme from council to the Northern Ireland Housing Executive. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That's for noting, members. So could we have a proposer, please? For noting, I'll take anybody. Councillor McColgan, thank you. And seconder, please. Councillor Withers. Okay. Now we'll move on to page 7. Page 8. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Mark. It was just in relation to the other matter, but it's okay. But the Affordable Warm Scheme, I'm just wondering, John, is there any update on how that'll be delivered or whether that'll be detrimental to the local people who would be applying for that type of funding, or do we know yet? I know obviously with the cuts in funding that's likely to be coming up. I know that Grania Long was speaking this morning on radio, and she certainly wasn't painting a good picture in terms of the Affordable Warm Scheme.
Yeah, Chair, we've had no further notification from them from that letter that was received on the 1st of June, where it was stated that the scheme will change from the 1st of September. And the full delivery will be taken over by the Northern Ireland Housing Executive as scheme operator, and targeting through local councils will end. I would imagine that they would envisage that the scheme will work in much the same manner, except that it will be Northern Ireland Housing Executive staff who will deliver it. We were making referrals 20 per month to the Northern Ireland Housing Executive. Whether that will still be the level at which it happens, we don't know at this stage. It certainly does have issues with regard, because we have staff employed in relation to that, and discussions are ongoing at the moment to see if TUPE or whatever exists in order for the transfer of staff to the Housing Executive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Okay. Page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12 and 13, page 14, page 15, and page 16, members will pick up item 4.3 in correspondence.
Yes, Chair, it's just really a letter of acknowledgement in relation to Denniskillen's Museum and the fears of the loss of the artefacts in relation to Denniskillen's. And it is really, like I say, just a letter of acknowledgement, and they will be in contact in due course.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
You, Chair, just proposing to note, please. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And second, please. Councillor Gannon, thank you. And page 17 and 18, members. Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. Just an inquiry that I made about local athletes, members of Special Olympics clubs locally, who have flown out to Berlin for the World Games. You know, I'm very conscious of young Armstrong girl from OMA and Sammy Joe from Starbreakers. So the query at the time was for the council to contact those groups and see if they were eligible for bursaries or support, ahead of travelling to Berlin. So maybe get a response on that, please, Chair.
Update on that. Thank you, Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, Chair, I am aware that details of the sports bursaries were sent to them, to 3 groups. I think there was one Carrickmore, one Starbreakers, and there is another group also in the district who had athletes who were going to the Special Olympics. There definitely, the correspondence was sent to them in relation to the financial assistance that was available for them to attend, and I have a copy of it actually here on email.
Thank you, Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a copy of that if that's possible, because we had an informal meeting with like tea with the chair with OMA Spires Special Olympics Club, and we were making progress, but I felt that they weren't aware of the, whatever their administrative issues are. I felt that the people we were meeting weren't aware of the financial support available days before flying out to Berlin, and I'm not saying that's the fault of the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And that's the first set of minutes to complete, members. We'll just take you now to the minutes of the 30th of March, the Special Regeneration Community Committee. Page 1. Page 2. And on page 3, we'll pick up item 10.11 in your correspondence.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, it's correspondence from the Department for Communities in relation, and I suppose we'll find a lot of these coming from regional government in relation to the funding position. That you will note there from the correspondence that the budget in relation to community services has been extended. We had a budget allocation for the first quarter of this year based on last year up until the 30th of June. That has now been extended to the 30th of September. You will note also the line in it where it states, "I hope you will understand that this interim funding arrangement should not be interpreted as an assurance of the funding available for the remainder of 23-24. And in relation, therefore, it puts into doubt the level of funding in relation to community services for community services grants." Members will be aware that in March, Council approved the community support grants to organisations. However, in light of that lack of certainty of funding for those, and also in relation to the correspondence which was provided to members of the Council in relation to the rates relief grant, officers have decided to reduce the level of those grants in December by 10% in order until we get assurance of the level of financial support that would come for community services.
Okay, thank you. John, just a proposer to note that piece. 10.11, members, please. Okay, thank you, Councillor McArdle. And a seconder, please, Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Thank you. Page 3, that was page 4. And on page 5, Kim, did you want to pick up item 10.3?
Yes, so Chair, item 10.3 is from NIEA, and I also just wanted to note that there is an informal meeting with a representative of NIEA scheduled for the 23rd of June at 10 a.m, which will provide an opportunity to pick up on some of these issues. But this is a response in terms of Council's previous correspondence seeking information around the source data for ammonia concentration levels at Slieve Bay, and the report gives some information as to where the data has originated from.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're meeting with them because I read through that letter, and I was as wise when I finished reading it as I was when I started reading it. Maybe there's some technical way of reading it that it makes sense, but it made no sense to me whatsoever. So I'll be glad to be actually able to ask them questions on it personally.
Thank you. There'll be an invite going out for that, Kim. The members, will there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just a proposer and seconder to note, please. Councillor Rainey, thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Podrian Kelly, thank you. Page 4 and page 5, page 6. Thank you, members. We're on item 5 now, just to agree the terms of reference for the Regeneration Community Committee. I think this is just an updated terms of reference, members, just for approval. Kim?
Thank you, members. So this terms of reference there's track changes, so you can see the changes from the previous terms of reference, and it really reflects the change in terms of the committee structure and delegated authority and the reduced membership. Just a couple of further amendments at paragraph 4.6. If we could replace Health and Social Care Board with Integrated Care Partnerships and replace Transport NI with DFI Roads. So that's just for approval.
Thank you, Kim. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Propose to note the recommendations there, yeah.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Gannon. Thank you. All agreed. Okay. Item 6, Community and Wellbeing Directorate reports. 6.1 is to consider report on the service level agreement with the Department of Justice for the licensing of firework displays and firework storage, paper A. And that's with John. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Chair, the purpose of the report is to seek approval for the signing of a revised SLA between the DOJ and Fermanagh Noma District Council for warranted officers. The previous SLA was 2016. Normally, what we would present to members is a track changes document. However, we couldn't get the Word document of the 2016. The only version we had was a PDF document. So you will note in the revised version in Appendix 2 that the highlighted changes or that the changes are highlighted in yellow of the changes that are made. The main changes are merely wording to provide clarity regarding council officers on operational matters and on what they do and on their responsibilities. They're not material changes to the SLA. The one material change is the amount of finance that we can claim in relation to these duties. In 2016, the initial registration fee claimed by councils was £195. And in the current SLA, that fee has increased to 300, and the fee for renewals in 2016 was 139, and the revised SLA fee has increased to 270. So therefore, Chair, the recommendation is that the Council approves the signing of the SLA with the Department of Justice with a view to reviewing the effectiveness of the arrangements on a yearly basis, and that's included in the SLA.
Thank you, John, for that report. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick questions. Obviously, the increase in fees that we can claim is positive. Is that cost neutral for us, or do we have to put further finance into it to cover the duties, required? And I'm assuming that this is devolved to us. This is something that we have to undertake as a council. Would it be correct? Yes, I can see the director nodding. So just that one question then around the costs on us and what impact that has.
Chair, the costs vary from application to application, but on a whole, we would regard especially the new rates of £300 and £270 as effectively covering our costs. It's one of the few opportunities for where we do recover our costs from regional government services.
Thank you. Are you happy to propose? Thank you, Councillor Gannon. And a seconder, please, members. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly, thank you. We're on now to item 7, Regeneration and Planning Directorate Reports. 7.1 is to consider business case report, paper B. That's Kim. Thank you, Kim.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report is to seek approval on one business case and 3 addendums. They're outlined in the report at section 2. The first business case for approval relates to dual language signage for the manufacture and installation of the rolling programme of dual language road and street signs. The business case covers 2 years of spend at £150,000 per year for the next 2 years and is recommended for approval. We also have 3 addendums to previously agreed business cases. The first relating to Killyfold lock improvements. There has been an overall increase in the costs of the project, which is now practically complete, but the costs have been largely met by additional funding. So the additional cost to council amounts to £18,418, and the detail of the additional funding secured has been outlined at section 2.3. Lisnaskea Civic Amenity Site is the second addendum. The project will be completed at the end of July 2023, but there has been a cost increase which has arisen due to the poor ground conditions and also global cost increases of construction materials. The project is expected to be completed by July 2023. Dramee Waste Transfer Station, then the tender process is underway. The cost has increased from the original business case from 2.3 million to 2.8 million. And we're seeking approval for the overall increase in costs, which are reflective of market cost increases from the original EA, which was completed back in October 2021, and members will be aware of the ongoing construction price increase. So the total cost of increase of the projects amounts to just over £800,000, and this will be considered in terms of the additional budgetary needs during the mid-year review of the estimates process, which we will conduct in October of this year, and will reflect that against the overall allocation for this year's capital programme of £10.1 million. So it's recommended that the council approves the business case and addendums to the business cases as outlined in section 2.2 and 2.3, and approves that the increase in the cost is considered during the mid-year review of the estimates for 23-24 to be completed in October 23.
Thank you very much, Kim. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair, and all the best for your year ahead as Chair. Welcome, obviously, Killafole and Lisnaskea. The progress has been made there. I know certainly the skip in Lisnaskea, the skip site in Lisnaskea, this closure has caused a lot of problems in that area, but certainly given another 4 to 6 weeks, hopefully it will see the completion and a lot better service there. As a party, we won't be supporting item 2.2. I don't want to get into a debate about it. I appreciate that it's policy, but it's a policy that we didn't support. And in a cost of living crisis, 150,000 per annum for 2 years in this current time is a lot of money. And I'm sure we're all aware that the cancelling of the fireworks, the negative media coverage that we took on that over the last couple of weeks, and certainly, you know, to be spending 150,000 minimum, I would say, because that's the capital spend on signage that a lot of people don't want, is purely, in our opinion, a waste of money. We will be supporting the rest of the recommendations with the exception of 2.2. Thank you, Chair.
Are you proposing that, Councillor, with exception 2.2? Okay. Okay, thank you. Councillor Green.
Thank you. I was wondering how long, in fact, I was near going to take bets on how long it'll be until the UUP reverted to type and attacked all things Irish. Of all the money that's been spent here, it's the 150,000 on Irish language signs as again in the target of the UUP. I would like to point out that he says a lot of people don't want it. Well, I think by the results of the previous election and the fact that the UUP lost councillors and Sinn Féin gained a lot of councillors, maybe a lot of people do want it, and maybe the UUP should rethink their policy towards all things anti-Irish. But just to go on to Dromee, 500,000 increase, was that allowed for in the estimates this year for the rates? And Lisnaskea, another, I think it was 200, 300,000 added on to the cost of it due to poor, part of the reason due to poor ground conditions. Well, I would suggest anybody that knows where Lisnaskea amenity site is would know before they ever even put a foot on it that the ground conditions was going to be very trying. And I'm just wondering why it was a surprise to anyone that was dealing with this, that there would be trouble with the ground conditions in it. And I'm a bit surprised that engineers and that would have been looking at that wouldn't had allowed for that originally. So could I just get a comment on them two things?
Thank you, Councillor Green.
Yeah, in terms of Lisnaskea, there were some ground survey works, but clearly this issue was not picked up, and that is something that we will want to take up with the design team. Obviously, we have to close out on the project at this stage, but there will be a process where we will be engaging with the design team around the preparatory work, and probably don't want to say much more at this stage in terms of that. And in terms of the overall costs, the estimates, what the report is outlining is that the increase in costs is above what we have allocated in the estimates, and that's something that we now need to take account of in the mid-year review. The estimates are exactly that. They're an estimate of what we expect the budgetary costs will be, and each year we review the estimates against the contractual costs that have come in. And as part of the mid-year review, we will look at how the programme is developing and what resources we have available to us to continue the work for the remainder of that year.
Thank you. Councillor Green, just a very quick comment, because you've already been in on that.
Yeah, just could inquire who the design team were and on the Listen Ski amenity site, and we're only a couple of months after setting the rates, so I don't know how we could be 500,000 now, needing another 500,000. Is it only now that this has come to light, or did we know this well before we were setting the rates?
Okay.
So this information has come to light as the contract and the projects develop. We continue to get information from through the project management arrangements, and this is what we are now reporting back through and has triggered the need for addendums to the business cases. As I say, the capital programme is based on our best estimates, and it is something that we continue to keep under review. The design team on the project is Taggart's, and as I say, that is something that we will be taking up with Taggart's.
Okay, the process will be followed there. Thank you, Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, just to comment on what Councillor Warrington has said. Firstly, he said he didn't want to enter into a debate, and then he went into a debate. You know, at the end of the day, these signs, the £150,000 on signs, they were included in the estimates process. You know, and Councillor Warrington, you and your party supported that estimates process. As well as that, you talk about the negative publicity of fireworks being cancelled. You also supported that in the estimates process. So there's a real disconnect between thinking and actions here in terms of maybe just trying to grab a headline on opposition to the Irish language, which I don't think is the correct thing to do. It's there for everyone. It's part of our shared heritage and our shared culture, and we need to celebrate it and promote it. And I think the policy, generally speaking, has been a success. Yes, there may be issues with it that we can iron out, but Councillor Warrington also said they reckon a large number of people don't want it. Well, it's good that the policy allows surveys for the local community then to see if it is wanted. And just to bear in mind that it's a minority language, that's what it's recognised as, and we need to protect it and cherish it in that regard. I do have a question following on from Councillor Green's comments on the capital changes, the budget there. So I assume what we'll be hoping is that we can find some of that money through variance throughout the year. Would it be regular, and I don't think it would be, for that amount to appear in variance throughout the year? And given that this is the first month of the term, would we be expecting further increases with other projects? And what potential knock-on impact will that have if, let's say, there isn't sufficient variance within the year to cover the additional costs of these projects and maybe others? Does that mean when we get towards the end of the year in our capital programme, do we just stop at that stage because the funding isn't there? Because that's a very real concern that we all have. I think the capital programme that we have is something that we value greatly, and it's something that the council can point to and say, look, there's something physical we have delivered. So maybe a comment on that, Chair. And then I'll propose the report in full, including the Irish language signs. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so the capital programme is agreed at the start of the year through the estimates process, and it's our best estimate of the work that we can take forward in the year ahead. And we set out our priorities for the projects we can take forward, and we put a budget allocation, which is an estimated allocation based on design costs and the information we have available to us. For each project, there needs to be a business case before it gets into the capital programme. And if that business case is exceeded with the costs as they develop, we will do addendums and report that information through. So there is continual monitoring of the costs of the capital programme, the costs of individual projects, so that we can make adjustments to our capital programme. Obviously, we have a set amount of capital funding available to us. So we do a mid-year review when we reflect on the costs of the projects taken forward in the first part of the year, where we have got to with our budget, and if we need to, we will reprioritise for the second part of the year. What we find is that there are, we make our best estimate and our best, we plan as far as we can for the projects that will be taken forward. Every year there are issues which arise, delays in, perhaps some approvals, delays in funding, and there are always some areas of give and take around the capital programme, which is one of the main reasons that we do the mid-year review, so that we can look at it in the round and see how we can prioritise for the second part of the year.
Thank
Hope
you,
that
Kim.
answers the question.
Thank you. And Councillor Prodgin Kelly, thank you.
Thanks, Chair, and good luck for the year ahead. I wasn't actually going to come in, only some parties decide to make the Irish language political whenever it's not. I would like to second the proposal from Adam Gannon to the amendment, the paper, the recommendations, and also call on the UUP and all councillors in this chamber to stand against the hate crime of damaging the dual language signs. We're out this money, but there are people who are behind it, who are trying to damage the signs. And I know for a fact it's not just putting paint over it, they are literally taking machinery. And I would like to think that Victor and his party would come out against this. Also, Victor, the Irish language was here long before you, and it'll be still there. And I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Okay, members, we've had a proposer and seconder. Councillor Warrington, just a comment. We don't want to.
Well, I'm not going to get into a debate. Poderdine has mentioned sign damage. We have always openly condemned any damage to any signs. We are not, Councillor Green, we are not against the Irish language. Poderdine mentioned politicising the Irish language. Well, we think this is certainly something the Sinn Féin party are doing with their signs. And that's basically, and certainly the comments also made on the we as a party where we supported doing the fireworks display in the committee. Yes, we did, but I didn't speak about the fact that it had been cancelled in my bit previously. I basically said, were we all aware of the negative media that was out there in the last couple of weeks because of the cancellation of the fireworks? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Well, members, we have a proposal and a seconder. We'll take Councillor Gannon's first. It was seconded first, so there'll be disagreement, I sense, on this, so we'll go to a vote on this proposal, members. Councillor Devine Gallagher's on WebEx, so you'll maybe see a vote coming up there as well. Sorry, Councillor Kelly, thank you.
I was just wondering who seconded Victor's proposal?
Oh, no, I was taking the first proposal that was seconded, which was Councillor Gannon's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go. Just setting it up. Second and this one's okay. Just it's easier to come. And you just do a show of hands if you don't know. Just
Okay. We might just do a show of hands, members. We're having a wee bit of technical trouble in the chamber. Yep. So those in favour, raise your hand, please. This is Councillor Gannon's proposal, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Thank you. Those against? 11 for and 4 against. Proposals carried. Okay. Thank you, members. Next item is 7.2 is to consider update report on performance improvement, paper C. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides an update on the Council's performance improvement plan for last year at the end of Q4, which is 31st of March 2023, and that's outlined at Appendix 1. And the Council has a statutory duty to publish a self-assessment of its improvement progress by the 30th of September annually. So we're working on this, and that will be reported to the September meeting of the committee. We're also required to consult upon, agree and publish improvement objectives by the 30th of June each year. And the final performance improvement plan is attached at Appendix 2, which has taken account of consultation feedback, which is attached at Appendix 3. So in terms of the Q4 progress report, there were 18 strands of work. 85% of those progressed in line with the identified schedule, and 61% of performance measures demonstrated a positive trend in comparison with the baseline. 21% of measures have data outstanding, which will be available later in the year and will be included in the report in September 2023. In terms of the improvement plan for the current year, members previously agreed 3 improvement objectives for consultation. We ran a consultation process and the feedback was largely positive. That feedback is outlined at Appendix 3, and the improvement plan is now presented at Appendix 2 for your approval. So the recommendations are that the Q4 update report is noted and that the performance improvement plan for 23 to 24 is approved for publication.
Thank you very much. Proposer and seconder for that, please, members. Councillor Warrington propose. And a seconder, please. Councillor McElduff. Thank you, members. 7.3 is a draft response to the Department for Economy, Place 10X, a sub-regional economy. Can't get that word approach. A call for evidence, paper D. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides a draft response to the Department for Economy's call for evidence on Place 10X. And the Department is considering how to link the work of the 10X economy strategy at a regional level with activity at sub-regional and at local level to strengthen the economy. The call for evidence opened on the 11th of May and closes on 9th of July. And there is a draft response to the call for evidence attached in full at Appendix 2 with the call for evidence document at Appendix 1. So in short, the Council, the draft response welcomes the recognition of the importance of place-based approaches and acknowledges the clear economic variations in the economy. Notes that this presents an opportunity to redress historic imbalances across the region and particularly deficiencies in the performance of the Department and Invest NI within the Fermanagh and Omagh district, picking up on some of the issues which were identified through the recent independent review of Invest NI undertaken by Sir Michael Lyons. The response notes that economic policy and approaches to date have been based on a one-size-fits-all solution, which doesn't adapt to local characteristics and needs, and has focused largely to date on city economies, which leaves other places behind. It also notes the need for a partnership approach to meaningfully deliver on shared responsibility and other legislative and policy changes, as well as provision of resources. References to partnerships with government departments and agencies through community planning and the need for improved collaboration, and also affirms that a place-based approach must apply at a local level, working with local councils and through community planning partnerships, with a need for a joined-up approach across government departments, which to date has not been evident in many instances. The Council believes that the Department's definition of place and use of Place 10X, however, is limited and needs to recognise that place-based approaches go beyond a focus on the economy, that they need to target the specific circumstances of a place, looking at wider needs such as services and the infrastructure that is available, or indeed the infrastructure deficits, and needs to engage with local stakeholders and communities. So the recommendation is that the draft response to the call for evidence attached to Appendix 2 is approved for submission to the Department for the Economy.
Thank you, Kim. We've seen the draft response. Councillor Donnelly, Stephen Donnelly. So, sorry, see if I can get you switched on.
Is that okay? Yeah. Thank you, Chair, and I'm more than happy to propose this draft response. And I suppose if there's just one thing that I'd like to actually highlight for commendation, actually, is that I think that it's very well phrased, actually, to say that we don't want to see the continuation or indeed the application of a city's model of economic development, because the one thing that we don't want is for us to move from a situation which we have right now, which is essentially market distortion as a result of concentration of economic power around one particular area in the east of the province, Belfast. I see us simply move to another form of market distortion where that's being concentrated around two economic centres, that being Belfast and Derry. While of course we welcome opportunity and investment for those two areas, ultimately we do represent a far wider geographical area, and it's important that small towns, rural areas and villages such as the ones we represent are adequately to the fore in making sure that we progress that opportunity agenda. So more than happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you for that proposal. Apologies, members, the mics are just, Councillor Armstrong, I know you were on Councillor Green there, but can you turn yours to red? No, or what do we see, can I? I will go to Councillor McElduff, yours is red, so I'll come back to you, Councillor Armstrong. Can you turn yours on? Can we just pause for a moment, members, please?
Pause the recording just maybe say just to pause the recording, maybe
Okay.
so she does that.
Adele, can you pause the recording as well, just please?
Should there be a specific reference to the infrastructure we are talking about in our council area? You know, we're talking about A5 and we're also talking about A4. We know that inside the council area, the A32 is absolutely crucial as well. You know, should we be emphasising the infrastructure that we are talking about, be specific, be clear about that? And then I'm wondering, has the north-south theme not been captured in our response, you know, given the geography of our council area and, you know, groups like Intertrade Ireland, the role that they play? I read recently there in the past week that 30,000 vehicles cross the border every day, people going to and from work. So should that not be referred to and, you know, drilled down into a bit in the context of our response? And then I'm just wondering about themes and topics. You know, is regenerative tourism specifically mentioned? Is manufacturing and engineering specifically mentioned? Agri-food, and even this attempt to attract financial services that we have been talking about as a council. Could we cite some of those things in our response? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McElduff. Okay, Kim.
I think the call for evidence at this stage is very much focused around the level that the activity should focus at, because at the moment it has been regional, and the thrust of the call for evidence is, should they work at a sub-regional level and should they work at a local level? So it's really about the method of working and the levels at which they work, as opposed to more specifics. And there will be a consultation. So this is an initial call for evidence, and if this is the policy direction that they agree to move forward on, there will be a detailed document and a consultation later in the year. The response does refer to, on question 1 and again on question 2, the need for sub-regional arrangements to work, not just through city and growth deals, but through cross-border partnerships as well. So that is mentioned. We certainly can draw reference to the sectors and the need to build, I suppose, a stronger presence of those sectors beyond the city region. So we could certainly add that in at this stage. It doesn't specifically reference infrastructure, but in our response, we have introduced the need for infrastructure to play a key part in a place-based approach.
Are you happy to second on the back of that response, Councillor? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Apologies, Councillor Armstrong, that the mics are back on, but Councillor Green's in the queue, so we'll let him go here. We'll get to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm aware of the vital role that agriculture plays in this council area. I believe it's the biggest industry we have, and I think we really need to emphasise the need to protect it. So I'll just add that little point. And just 2 other things, kind of slightly off agenda, but they're link in with this. The fact that there is no A4 working group anymore, I really do think as a council, we need, I know it was Leitrim Council was taking the initiative on it and they can't stop doing it. I really think we need to take the initiative and get that up and running again, because it's one of the biggest barriers to getting jobs and infrastructure here is the fact that the roads to Fermanagh are just absolutely terrible. And I actually wrote to the permanent secretary of the Department of Infrastructure just to see them, to compare the amount of accidents and deaths that has been on the A4. It's a very morbid subject, but I believe it's right up there as one of the most dangerous roads in the north of Ireland. So I really think we need to get that A4 action group up and running. And just when we were in our pre-meeting, we noticed that the broadband working group seems to have ceased. To me, the broadband has not been solved by Project Stratum. Far from it. At least once or twice a week when I'm out and about, people are complaining to me about broadband, and unless we get broadband right in this rural council area, we're still always going to be at a disadvantage to the big city. So could the Chief Executive maybe comment on them 2 things about them 2 working groups?
Just go to the other questions first. Okay, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Just really, it's to make a comment. I see they have referenced the cross-border tourism, which is an opportunity. Pleased to see higher education mentioned as a key partner, because that is where our young people and our educated young people will come from to invest or for economic outputs. Also pleased to see that, it has been highlighted that Department of the Economy representative is not in the community planning partnership. That is vital to be part of that process. And I was wondering, just looking at the 10X document, I don't see a reference to COVID in it, and COVID has substantially changed the playing field that we're working on. So I wonder, bearing in mind that COVID, people's work patterns have changed considerably. Is that something we also need to consider? Perhaps attracting people to come to this, to live in this district that may not otherwise have come here. So it's just a comment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Gannon at this stage as well, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's a good response. There is a point that I think would be worth including in it potentially. And it's if we just take the opportunity, and we'll be coming on to it in item 7.4, but our own local economic initiatives that the council runs. Now we do get funding from other bodies to complete that work. But we are, not to blow our own trumpet or anything, but we're really good at that. We're always very successful. We're hitting our targets. We're creating jobs. We're supporting businesses, and we see it all the time, the good work that the council does do compared to the abysmal failure of Invest NI and the department at looking at creating jobs in this area and investment in this area. So would there be a point to be made that in any future economic strategy and 10X strategy, more funding should be either devolved or given to councils and stripped from bodies like Invest NI that don't do their job, and to allow local councils who have that local knowledge and relationships built to really build up the economy, taking into the considerations, the aims of looking at place and things like that throughout it and addressing regional imbalance. It would be, in my opinion, a very worthwhile point to make, because we are good at it and others aren't. And I wouldn't have faith that this strategy will do anything for us unless there is a change in how it's delivered. And that would be, for me, coming to the local council. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, them points. To pick up on just Kim first. Thank you, Kim.
Yes, I can certainly add to the draft response with all of the suggestions made by members. We can incorporate that into further revision and submit that in advance of the deadline. Thank you.
And just to comment on the working groups, Alison, for Councillor Green, please.
Yeah, certainly, Chair. I'm mindful it's on the agenda for tomorrow evening, but if you wish, I can just provide in summary form. As Councillor Green acknowledges, in terms of the A4 working group, this was originally led by Leitrim County Council. To the best of my knowledge, it hasn't met since 2016, but it is a formal, and Leitrim have indicated they are not minded to have a working group structure in relation to the road, and that was something that was pursued in writing by the council. ICBAN, however, have included the route, the A4 N16, as part of the strategic road improvements for the sub-region. The council separately had a motion around dualling from Ballygawley, the A4 right the way through to Sligo, and as part of that we wrote to all of the councils along the route, which was really around the funding for a feasibility study to look at the economic impact. To the best of my knowledge, the only response we received was from Mid-Ulster. I'd suggest, and I know it's something we can obviously revisit tomorrow night, in the first instance, I think that would be worth refreshing, because the work on the A5 stemmed from an economic feasibility study that the Legacy Omagh District Council did in 2007. And I think that would actually be a core piece of work. If we need a working group as part of that, that could be revisited, but certainly that would be my suggestion. My suggestion. In terms of broadband, what we had agreed in March at the Policy and Resources Committee meeting, that we would retain those groups that were required for funding or policy making purposes. The Rural Affairs Subcommittee, we would have assumed would have had a core role on the broadband provision, given the bulk of the debate and research related to rural areas. So that's where we would see that work going, and also being reflected back to this committee. Now, I suppose, Chair, we do, and I don't want to deal with too much of tomorrow's business, we also have a proposal around the establishment of the subcommittees, that we would in the first instance do a workshop that would actually agree the detail of the work plan. So I'd be confident that we'd be able to satisfactorily deal with the broadband issue as part of that.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Okay, members, that 7.3 has been proposed by Councillor Stephen Donnelly, seconded by Councillor Michael Duff, and Kim will take on board. The comments are all agreed. Thank you. 7.4 is to consider update report on various economic development initiatives. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the report that we bring at end of year and the start of the new financial year, reflecting on the work of the economic development programmes for the year which has been completed. And you can see it's section 2.1. We've listed all of the initiatives we took forward under local economic development team, and you can see that the majority of those programmes exceeded the targets, and for those others which didn't exceed the targets were at 87% and 80% respectively, so still a strong performance. At 2.2, we've set out the proposed programme of business support activity to be delivered in the 23 to 24 financial year. The first one, the Go For It programme, will conclude in this year. We are currently contracted up until the end of September, and we hope at that stage to have secured the funding from UK Shared Prosperity Fund and to have all of the procurement undertaken to establish the new entrepreneurship support service across the 11 councils. There are a number of other activities listed, and they collectively combine to the full allocation of the 260,000 which we have for economic development programme activity in the year. The other sections in the report refer to business awards. So we have been invited to sponsor OMA Business Awards through the Chamber of Commerce Awards, which will take place on 6th of October this year, and separately the Fermanagh Business Awards. We have been invited to sponsor the Business Excellence category. So it's recommended that the Council notes the update on the local economic development initiatives for the 22-23 financial year, approves the proposed suite of programmes for 23 to 24, and notes the arrangements for sponsorship of categories at the OMA Chamber of Commerce Business Awards and the sponsorship of a category at the Fermanagh Herald Business Awards, both to be held in October this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of queries before I would propose the report. Firstly, obviously, the report acknowledges the loss of EU funding and the new shared prosperity funding. Obviously, the new funding formula will result in reduced funding as far as I am aware, and I see that's been noted as reflected in the economic development plans. Just wanted to ask a question around if there's potential for funding to be reduced, because you said that we still have to wait for some funding to come through, if I'm correct in saying. Has all that funding been secured, or at least secured in theory until final things are put through and finalised? And in terms of the business award sponsorship, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong again, that the recommendation is to not go ahead with sponsorship, just simply to note the ask on us. Would I be correct in saying that? Thank you. Because it says notes rather than committing us to it, and it doesn't say in the financial package or the resource implications that we are committing to that with this report, but I just wanted to check that. Thank you.
No, firstly, for the business awards, we have, because we had to commit, give a commitment during the period prior to the election. So we have already committed to those. We're reporting now for noting, but both agencies required a commitment prior to now. So that has been given. In terms of the successor to the Go For It programme, we're working collectively with all 11 councils. We have been in discussions with UK Shared Prosperity Fund as a collaborative group. We don't have a letter of offer, but we have an in-principle commitment that there will be funding in full to deliver the new entrepreneurship and support service. So we will be bringing further detail of that back into committee so that you'll have a clearer understanding of the detail of that.
Thank you. Happy to propose, Councillor Gannon. Okay, and a seconder, please, members. Councillor McArdle, thank you. All agreed? Okay, that takes us to 7.5, is to consider updated report on various tourism development initiatives. Thank you, Kim.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the first piece of this report relates to the contribution to Mountain Bike NI Marketing Consortium. And in May 22, members approved a contribution to the consortium. It's proposed to continue the support and focus marketing activity within Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland to deliver on two key objectives, which are increasing the number of visits to each trail centre and growing the economic impact of mountain biking to the local economy. Appendix 1 gives an overview of the activity associated with the trails, and an outline of Mountain Bike NI's proposal for the year ahead is outlined in Appendix 2. The financial contribution amounts to 6,300, which is 5,250 for core activity, and then £1,050 for a campaign in the south in relation to mountain biking activity. The second part of the report then relates to Enniskillen Rotary Conference, which is taking place from the 29th of September to the 1st of October this year. Enniskillen Rotary Club will host the Rotary District Ireland Conference, and it's expected 250 delegates and partners will be welcome to Enniskillen, with more than 100 hotel rooms reserved for the weekend, which will create an excellent opportunity to showcase Enniskillen and Fermanagh to that wider visitor audience. It's requested that council approval is granted for a civic reception for the delegates on Friday, 29th of September in the Town Hall. And officers are also engaging with the Rotary Club in relation to arrangements for group tours and group rates for visits to the museum and Coles Monument on 30th of September. So it's recommended the council approves contribution of 6,300 to outdoor recreation NI for the annual marketing activity to promote Gorchin Glen Forest Park trails through the Mountain Bike Consortium, and that's subject to all other partner councils paying their respective contributions. And secondly, that we agree to host the reception on Friday, 29th of September for the Rotary District Ireland Conference being held in Enniskillen by Enniskillen Rotary Club.
Thank
you,
you,
Chair.
Thank you, Kim. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm more than happy to propose the recommendations. I've had more reason to be in Gorchin Glens quite a bit recently, not least with the recent Guide Dogs event at the weekend. That was very well attended, and it's been wonderful actually to see just how much energy and good attendance there's been in the Glens recently, with a lot of people taking it up, from walkers to charities to those engaged in mountain biking. So no, it's enormously welcome to see the council continue to support this kind of marketing and promotional work. Chair, if you'd be able to indulge me for a minute, I'd like to raise a slightly separate proposal, but which does come under the heading of tourism development. One of the things that does come up quite a lot when you're speaking to people, particularly around Tattysala, Cavanagh, Clannabogan, and even in the Oma area, is the sense that of all the natural assets that we have at our disposal in the district, Pigeon Top is one that is very much underutilized. It's a very special place. It's a very popular walking destination. It's a place where on a clear day at the summit you can see at least 4 counties. So it's an enormously special place. But there is very much a sense that the area has, in terms of official support, been left behind. I mean, an example was given to me that at one point there would have been picnic benches in the area, but I think those are now gone. And so I suppose a proposal that I'd like to make, just on behalf of those who have raised it with me, is would it be possible to get a report brought back essentially detailing where Pigeon Top sits at minute and where it fits into our tourism and economic development plans, and how we can endeavour to provide it and actually to promote it as a tourism destination, just because it is such a huge asset to our community. And at the minute, there is a real sense within the community that it's being underutilised. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just thinking about the cost of the support, and I'd be interested to know, is there any quantifiable measure of the value we are getting out of it? Is there anything that points out our mountain bike NI able to say we have X number of hits on posts related to your area? We provide 10% of their marketing budget. Is 10% of their marketing delivered towards Fermanagh and Oma, and in this case, Gorchin Glen? Because as we quite often see, you can contribute into bodies and things like this and not get your value for money from them. So they could be spending all the money on marketing particular things. One area in Mid-Ulster, for example, or focusing in particular on certain areas. So I'd be interested, is there any quantifiable benefit to this that we have been able to see? Have we done any surveys of use of the mountain bike trails at Gorchin Glen in particular, in this case? And are mountain bike NI able to provide any geographic specific metrics to help make the case for maintaining this funding into future? Thank you.
Councillor Gannon. We'll bring in Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly at this stage as well, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I was sort of coming in the same vein as Adam. Basically, I suppose, where are we starting from in terms of the amount of people that are actually coming to the Gorchin Glens to use the trails? We didn't have a point to measure as to how successful the investment and the marketing will be. I know there's talk in the paper about number of hits on websites and so on, but does it actually then equate to people coming to the Gorchin Glens, or just people surfing the net and seeing what they're looking at? Does it return visitors? That's what we want. We want to see it as measured that way. And then the other, I would like to second Councillor Donnelly's proposal in relation to the Pigeon Top, because we know ourselves, Chair, that that's a very scenic place and there's certainly plenty of people walk it and it's kind of a hidden gem, really. So happy to second that proposal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Armstrong? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Councillor.
Got me there. Thank you, Chair. Just looking for a little bit of information on the trail cards and what advantages there would be as an add-on to trail finding, to mountain biking, and how much are we aware how much that would cost to add that into the package, just to give to participants when they come into the district?
Thank you. Can we go to Kim at this point, please, Kim?
Okay, so in terms of the data that we have, I suppose the reported Appendix 1 gives us an overview of activity in terms of their marketing and the specific marketing around Gorge and Glen. So some data around the unique visits to the Gorge and Glen Forest Park profile compared to the wider activity on the wider site. They have been successful in terms of working with us to secure particular events also at Gorge and Glen. So we did have enduro cycle events as well, which were successful and, you know, high profile in terms of the mountain bike community. So that is, I suppose, the information that we currently hold in relation to the activity. I mean, I can go back to the team and see if there's any further data that we have that we can bring to you in respect of any specific numbers. We do have data around overall visitor numbers to the park, which has, you know, continued to grow in terms of visitor attendances.
Thank you. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly, just
a quick follow-up, Chair. I suppose through the Chair, really, it's just in relation to this funding. It's for 1 year, but this is quite a significant amount of funding, and so that we can measure next year, was that money well spent? Was it value for money? We need to look and see, does this equate to more people coming and using the bike trails at the Gorge and Glens? So we would need that data. I don't know if there's counters or anything installed in the Gorge and Glens where we can measure that, you know, because if we're going to consider this again next year, we would need more than what we have. Hit some websites really is a bit thin, I think, in terms of looking at how we spend this money.
Okay,
I suppose that is the data that they gather in terms of marketing activity. We do have visitor counters in Gorge and Glens. They may not be specific to the mountain bike trails. So we'd have to take a look at that in terms of that specific data and activity. But certainly we can look at that, and if members wish, I can take this away and bring further detail back.
Councillor McElduff, just your next there, please.
Just anecdotally to add that there was an event in the Gorge and Glens Forest Park probably 2 to 3 months ago, weekend event, and I visited it on the Sunday for prize giving, you know, and it was massive. It was full of participation, full of you know, the infrastructure of mountain biking for the entire weekend. One of our own community wellbeing coordinators who used to work with us was king of the Glen, you know, in terms of his mountain biking prowess. And it seemed to be like a mecca for mountain biking and a paradise for mountain biking. And they were from all over, you know, many counties were represented there. So just anecdotally, it seems to be a perfect place for mountain biking.
Am I right that it has won awards maybe on the mountain bike? Is that right? Yeah. Just Councillor Gannon, a comment, because you've already been on.
Yeah, very, very briefly. Thank you, Kim, for pointing out that the figures on their own page were very small, hence why I missed them. Had to zoom away in to get them there. I can see they're coming up with a 10% figure, but their figures don't add up to that. It's coming in 2.8, 2.6, 2.7 there. So I'd be concerned whether we're actually getting value for money with that. So maybe something that could be done going forward is that we have, or the officers can bring forward some way we can monitor to see if there has been any improvement in this. Does it actually deliver for us? and maybe that we express concerns that with mountain bike NI that, look, we need to see physical on the ground results for this to be worthwhile. But I'll leave it at that, Chair, because I've been in already.
Well, members, we need a seconder just for that that main proposal recommendation that was proposed by Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Do we have a seconder to go ahead with it on this at this time? Or as Kim maybe said, does members want that brought back? That part of it? An indication?
Maybe, Chair,
Councillor
to
Gannon?
propose the 2.2 goes through, but we come back with 2.1 and maybe a bit more information if that's what the committee believes would be the correct approach.
Would the
Thank you.
committee feel that way, bring it back? Would that be? Yes. Are you happy to amend Councillor Stephen Donnelly to that? And would that be for next month or two? All right. All agreed with that? Thank you. So the 2.2 is passed off that paper. Okay, members, we're on to reports for information now. Item 8.1 is to note, report and consultation on updates to the Food Standard Agency's technical guidance on food allergen labelling and information requirements. This is with John Boyle. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Chair, really a technical report on Food Standards Agency consultation on food allergen labelling and no gluten containing ingredient statements. So pretty technical and stuff, and really down into the depth of what environmental health officers do. The consultation response is included in Appendix 1 and has been developed in coordination with our environmental health officers by a subgroup of the Northern Ireland Food Managers Group, which sits under Environmental Health NI. And you will see there that in relation to the no gluten containing ingredient statements, that they agree with the fact that they shouldn't be used, as in many cases they can be misleading. So therefore, Chair, it is because the response was already submitted on the 22nd of May, it's recommended that the Council notes the report on the consultation response on updates to the Food Standards Agency technical guidance on food allergen labelling and the information requirements.
Thank you, John. Just a proposer and seconder needed for that, members, please. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and Councillor Rainey. Thank you, members. Okay, 8.2 is to note the report of the Director of Community and Wellbeing. John.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, for a number of years, there have been contributions to Tyrone and Fermanagh GAA in relation to coaching and gains development to increase participation and ultimately to improve physical and mental health and well-being. The assistance of 10,000 per annum was for a 5-year period to both Tyrone GAA and Fermanagh GAA, and the 5-year agreement with Tyrone GAA has elapsed. Whilst for Fermanagh GAA, because it started much later, it continues until the 31st of March 2024. Provision has been made in the estimates for £7,500 to Tyrone GAA for the extension of the letter of offer up until the 31st of March. And I suppose the thinking from officers in relation to this is to bring Fermanagh GAA and Tyrone GAA in line with each other, so for the same reporting mechanism. And it is also, we have received correspondence from Ulster Rugby to explore the possibility of a similar initiative for supporting development of rugby in the district, and to explore how our own council facilities could be utilised for local and regional activity. Have had a number of discussions with Ulster Rugby in this regard, and further exploring will take place. But I think bringing the Tyrone GAA and Fermanagh GAA timeframes together provides that opportunity to undertake a review of all sporting codes, whether it be rugby, soccer, Gaelic, or whatever, to review the grant assistance to such bodies prior to the estimates process of 24-25. Just in relation to the 7,500 reduced allocation from the 10,000, that is just solely in relation to the financial pressures which are currently being experienced in the council here. So it's recommended, Chair, that the Council notes the reduced allocation of £7,500 to Tyrone GAA for coaching and games development, notes the allocation of £10,000 for the year, for this current financial year, and notes that a review of grant assistance for coaching development to sporting bodies will be undertaken prior to the 24-25 estimate setting process later this year.
Thank you, Chair. John. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, John, for that report. And indeed, it is welcome to see the enormous benefit that has come from Tyrone GAA and from GAA being able to put this into action on behalf of the community. I suppose, Chair, I don't know if this would require a formal proposal or perhaps it can just be incorporated in as part of the recommendations. But I suppose, I was at an event in Barra on Sunday, which was organised by Bear Swifts and the IFA, where there was an enormous amount of young people from the local area who had the opportunity to enjoy a football festival. And one of the messages that was very much coming to me is that the IFA and indeed the wider footballing community within the district would like to be a much more proactive and key partner to the council in terms of being able to avail of finance, but also being able to put that back into the council area itself. And so I suppose one of the things that I'd like to propose just going forward, that as part of our considerations, and I appreciate this may well be part of the review, that we do establish a mechanism to allow football to benefit from council support and finance, similarly to the GAA, and indeed similarly to the way hopefully rugby will be able to do so in due course as well. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I want more to talk about where we're coming from in relation to the review. I think that the council should look at that as an opportunity to have partnership arrangements with other bodies and how they can deliver our corporate objectives. I think if each, whether it's GAA, whether it's soccer, rugby, whatever, as long as it's in line with our corporate objectives, we want to invest in partnership working. I've had a look at it here and build on community involvement. These are things that we want to do. We want to build those relationships. We want to have our people to have healthy, well, physically, mentally, emotionally. We want to be promoting all that. And there's another theme that we have is our people to have the best start in life with lifelong opportunities to fulfill their potential. I see this as an opportunity for council. So I think the review should consider what we're currently providing, be that physical facilities, be that pitches, be it financial support, whatever. We should look at all and then try and tie that back to our corporate objectives so that we should be looking to build on these partnerships. We should be looking to reach out to these bodies. And maybe, I don't know whether you can consider the number of participants in a sport, whether you look at that in terms of how you look at the level of funding. I don't know. I think this is going to be quite an in-depth report. Really consider it fully.
Thank you.
That seems reasonable.
Thank you. We'll maybe take comments first. Is that all right?
Yes, Chair, in relation to Councillor Stephen Donnelly's comments, I think that the review will take account and will go into soccer. Like I say, it is all sporting bodies. In relation to Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly's comments, certainly anything that we do, and I think we've made it very clear at the start of this mandate, that anything that we do must be directly in line with our corporate objectives. I think the financial constraints in which the council are under at this point in time, and in fact all public bodies, is that you must solely be concentrating on your corporate objectives. And certainly, the review must take account of what we currently provide and how various different sporting bodies will meet those corporate objectives in terms of young, in terms of physical exercise, in terms of mental health, and all of those sorts of issues. So all of those will be taken account of in the review that will be brought before members.
Thank you. Councillor Withers. I will bring you in. I'll just bring Patrick first, please. Thank you. Go on ahead, Councillor Withers.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and I welcome the support that's been offered to the GAA there, and also I appreciate John's point there about our current financial situation, but hopefully there will be scope there in the review to look at accommodating other sports, and be restoring the funding to the 10,000 next year again to the Tyrone GA. And I'll just ask for some latitude just as well from the chair on a separate proposal, which was in the sports sector. So we might be aware that there was further cuts announced today to the primary school sports programme. And I would propose that we write to the Department of Education urging for that decision to be reversed. It's another assault on children's health and well-being, and it comes only a week after whenever we had a motion in this chambers last week about youth services and programmes being cut and challenging that. So again, I think it's another opportunity for us to challenge those cuts that are being made from the Department of Education today. The programme between the AFA and the GA coaches go to over 200 schools. That's 24,000 children, and that just doesn't make sense to cut this at a time whenever reports indicating that low level of physical activity among children is a major health concern. And I'll also note recently that there was a report from the Education and Training Inspectorate that said 3/4 of primary schools are unable to provide the recommended 2 hours of per week of PE. So all of that just flies in the face of decisions made by the Department of Education. But I also respect that this is coming as a result of the austerity budget that's been placed on us by the Tories in London, and why we need to see the restoration of the executive, which can help prioritise and protect programmes like this. So I'll make that as a proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Councillor McElduff.
I'd like to second Councillor Withers's proposal. I'm glad he referenced the Department of Education programme that we heard about today. In relation to this, I suppose I'm going to test the boundaries here a little. £7,500 to the Tyrone GA until March 2024. I was under the impression that perhaps that 10,000 award, might be top sliced, in the current climate. I was of the impression that top slicing might be around 10% or 11% as opposed to that'd be 25%. So I'm asking, is there any scope for increasing that 7.5 till say 9,000, which would be a reduction? And the second point I would make is the GEA is unique. It truly is unique in terms of, I think Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly has been alluding to this, participation levels. I mean, they're out of the park. If you visit any GEA club throughout the week, it's just unbelievable the amount of activity that has taken place at the various grounds, club grounds, county grounds. It's probably the best example in Europe of community-rooted sporting organisation. And you marvel at it. There could be 3 pitches in a club in full swing on a Thursday night, the large car park full to capacity in a village, and everybody about the place involved. And, there is a feeling within the GEA community in Tyrone and Fermanagh both, about a deficit of pitches, a historical legacy thing, where if you were to compare like with like in sports with other sports, the GEA has never been given equality in respect of pitch provision, whereas other sports have been gifted pitches, largely gifted. That's the feeling in the GEA community. And then on the health and well-being, I mean, any sporting organisation the world over would do well to study what is happening in Tyrone and Fermanagh by way of health and well-being provision within clubs. They're substituting for health providers in the range of initiatives they're taking week in, week out. And so I would never apologise for emphasising the participatory levels in the GEA. And as Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly said there, the GEA is helping the council and other government bodies to score highly in terms of its own objectives. So in relation to Barra Swifts, I joined with John Boyle in a meeting with Barra Swifts, to help them with a few issues particular issues that arose in the recent past. That's just
your time's just up there, Councillor.
Can that figure of 7.5 in the immediate short term be revised to 9,000?
We'll check that. Okay. Thank you, Councillor. John?
No, Chair, I can come back and say, no, it really can't. Some of our grants to bodies actually in this financial year have reduced by over 40%. So I think what we are doing here is actually, because there's no formal service level agreement with Tyrone GAA, I think the award of 7,500 in the current climate is actually as much as we can possibly go and what has been approved through the estimates process in the workings of the estimates process.
Councillor Kelly, please.
Sorry, and thank you, Chair, and thanks for the report. I too share the sentiments of, whilst I understand the budget restraints that we have and the estimates, I think it just falls short simply of what the GA actually needs. And I think in Tyrone there's nearly 15,000 adult members and over 12,000 young membership. And to be honest, with the size of Tyrone, and I don't want to compare Tyrone to Fermanagh, and I don't like to do that, but the size of Tyrone and the level of participation, this is something that really, we should be promoting. And again, like Barry, I think that the provision in terms of what we provide as a council to the GAA in comparison with other sports in terms of pitch provision falls short actually. I was wondering, have we been in touch with Tyrone GAA and kind of let them know, and is this going to be reviewed this time next year again?
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Chair, if I can come back, I have met with the development officer of Tyrone GAA. I've indicated what is in the estimates process, and he is fully aware of the financial processes and issues that we have in the council, and indeed I think was content with a level of 7,500 in this financial year. In relation to what it would be likely in next year, that will be the outcome of the review that takes place in this financial year, and a report will be brought to members in that regard as to the possible budgets that would be available.
Thank you, John. Councillor Green.
John's reply there actually brought a smile to my face there in relation to funding that 7,500 was the absolute maximum. We couldn't do any more. It was just bells and whistles on it. It was that good. But a couple of items previously, we had near $1 million overspend, and it was hardly enabling. When we're talking about 250, we're talking about 2,500 here. Like, come on. Somebody made a boob in relation to these overspends. I know there's inflation and all, but they're by far more than inflation, these overspends, and we're quibbing about 2,500. Come on now. In fact, I would go further than Barry, and I'd say the 10,000 should be the minimum. 2,500. If that's what we're quibbing about here, by goodness, whenever any other report comes in here, when there's anything exceeding 2,500, we will go through it with a fine tooth comb.
Okay, Councillor Green. And Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly, you wanted that, sorry.
Just briefly, it was really just in relation to what is in front of us. It's just making sure that we're aware the value for money we're actually getting for the 7,500. That's a contribution to employing a development coach. So that outreach into the community is massive for only putting in 7,500 to that and 10 into Fermanagh. We're getting a lot for our money in terms of our corporate objectives. We're employing health and wellbeing officers to go out there and try and do that outreach. The Tyrone GAA have you could say a market there within the schools. They have all the relationships built. They're there, they're doing it. If only we could do the same with our wellbeing officers, we would be doing very well, and that's definitely good value.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Do you need proposer or second?
Yes, I need a proposer for that. Them recommendations, please.
I'm happy to propose.
Thank you, and a second.
Proposer. Stephen Donovan proposed.
Was that a separate proposal, or was that?
No, you're listening to those.
Oh, include the okay, and just a seconder then, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Is that okay to second? Just a second. I need a seconder. Is that okay? Thank you. And all agreed. Thank you, members. Sorry, Alison, yeah.
Just one very brief comment, members, and in case there's any misunderstanding, the council as always will be approaching this review positively. I mean, as someone who's worked in this area now for some considerable time, including the initiation of the relationship formally with the GA and the legacy councils, we know exactly what that we're getting by way of participation. But I also think in the context of community planning and the outcomes-based approach, this after 5 years is a formal opportunity for that also to be embedded. So I think just in case there is any, it's entirely reasonable for the relationships to and the arrangements to be reviewed, but that does not mean it's a negative thing.
Thank you, Alison. Now, members, we're on to item 9. 9.1 is to note update report on Project Stratum. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides a summary of an update provided by DFE to council officers on the 4th of April, and this was across all 11 councils on Project Stratum and also Project Gigabit. Members will be aware of Project Stratum, which extends access to superfast broadband to 85,000 premises across Northern Ireland and is being rolled out by Fibrus in terms of qualifying rural areas across Northern Ireland. So this report should also be read in conjunction with correspondence at 10:12 on your correspondence papers, which is also from DFE in relation to Project Gigabit and public review. So DFE has reported that Project Stratum is ahead of schedule with 66.5% of premises in April now passed, will be completed by March 2025. Fermanagh District Council has the highest number of premises requiring intervention with over 13,000 premises passed and just over 3,000 qualifying still outstanding. A reconsultation was recently conducted to identify additional eligible premises for inclusion in the project. Findings were published in March, which identified 5,129 premises across Northern Ireland that will be categorised as eligible for consideration, and that will be subject to Fibrus's ongoing assessment of build plans and approvals. Newly eligible premises identified that are not connected by Fibrus will then be considered for inclusion under Project Gigabit, which is a UK broadband programme aiming to provide gigabit level speeds to properties or premises which have been left out of other projects because they're not commercially viable. So this will follow on. In fact, Project Gigabit and Project Stratum will run in parallel. There has been an open market review completed for Project Gigabit. The information on that has now been published, and the public review has now been launched and is due to close on 6th of July. And DFE has asked Council to work with them in raising awareness of the public review. So we have now on our website issued information on the premises available through Project Gigabit, and householders or premises can check postcodes and make contact if their premise is not included. Once the target intervention area has been established, then they will move to a tender process to appoint a delivery agent. We have placed information on our website, and we've now commenced a social media campaign, and I will ensure that the information is shared with links to all members so that you can also share it with your contacts, and we'll submit that information through a range of databases that we have as well to try and spread that communication across the district. Council did previously, through our data science team, conduct some review work to try to identify postcodes within the district that were not in the Project Stratum area but didn't have access to 30 megabytes per second broadband. We identified, as a result of that, 53 postcodes, and officers will now do some research to refresh that information and then resubmit that information to the Project Gigabit consultation as well, so we can try and get all of the data that we currently hold included in the new Project Gigabit intervention area. So the recommendation is that the Council notes the update on Project Stratum and Project Gigabit and that the council will, through the council website and social media platforms, promote awareness of the public review of the findings of the open market review of Project Gigabit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Kim, Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Am I right in thinking that a while ago in the council, maybe you've already said this, Kim, so forgive me if I'm repeating you, but that we did a review on and gathered extra postcodes. And I know one specific postcode that was sent in at them, and I looked at the website there, and it's not included. So is this still a work in progress, or has these postcodes been sent in that we sent in as a council? Have they been included, or did the department then pick and mix with them again and delete some of them as they did previously?
The postcodes which we submitted could not be picked up as part of Project Stratum, but we will now resubmit them, and they may be able to be picked up as part of Project Gigabit, which the threshold for available speeds has increased beyond 30 megabytes per second. So we will resubmit that information once we do a further refresh of it.
Thank you. Councillor Green, very quick just.
And can we just point out that the vast majority of postcodes that were deleted from Project Stratum never got anywhere near 30 megabits. What Project Stratum and the department did, just to make this clear, they contacted wireless broadband providers who assured me that when I was talking to them, that they never ever claimed that they could provide 30 gigabits. But as soon as they give their list of customers, Project Stratum and the department immediately cut them off the list to be provided with broadband under Project Stratum. So straight away, the very scenario that they are saying, that people didn't get it under, there was a sleight of hand where they butchered a pile of postcodes off the radar on Project Stratum that was never meeting the criteria that they were setting themselves, as in they were falling way below that 30 gigabit limit.
Okay, members, we need a proposer and seconder for this report 9.1, please. Councillor Rainey, to propose, thank you. And a seconder, please, members. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Okay. Okay, members, 9.2 in your agenda is to note report of the Director of Regeneration and Planning, Pippa J.
So this report again is for information. It outlines some letters of variance and letters of offer which we've received, provides an update on the Rural Economic Accelerator Programme, which is a successor programme to the Aspire programme, and confirms that we've been successful in securing funding from DLUC and Shared Prosperity Fund in relation to that new programme, which is now up and running in the area. Also provides some information in relation to potential applications which we are working on with partners in relation to the Peace Plus programme, and advises that the council has been, the workhouse has been shortlisted for an award by the Royal Town Planning Institute of Northern Ireland in terms of excellence in planning for heritage and culture. And the ceremony will be on 15th of June at 12:30 in Belfast, the Belfast Room Ulster Museum, and will be attended by the council chair alongside officer representatives. So it's recommended that the council notes the acceptance of the letters of variance and letters of offer, notes the update on the REAP programme, notes the cost of progressing applications to the Peace Plus programme, and also notes the update in relation to the shortlisting of the workhouse.
Relations members, Councillor McElduff.
Yep, happy to propose, Chair, and just to wish our officials and our council chair going up the road in relation to the RTPA awards, you know, you would think you have a very good chance, or we have a very good chance of winning. You would think that, you know, so be prepared for victory lap coming down the road. You know, it's a great event. It's a nice, prestigious event, and hope we win that with the Enniskillen Workhouse. Thank you.
Certainly, yep. And a seconder, please, members. Councillor Armstrong, happy to second. Thank you. Okay. On the correspondence, members, there's quite a bit, so just with your cooperation to get it all through, please. 10.1 is to consider correspondence dated the 13th of April from Department for Finance regarding rural community transport, and also there's a piece in your other correspondence folder came in today from HM Treasury around rural community transport, so we'll take them both together. Just for noting, if we had a proposer. Councillor Stephen Donnelly and seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. 10.2 is to consider correspondence dated the 24th of April from NIE around the business plan, a future network for all. For noting as well. Proposer and seconder, please. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and seconded Councillor Rainey. Thank you. With 10.3 covered, 10.4, there's three pieces here. 10.3, 1, 2, and 3, they're all around mobile phone coverage. Want to say anything on them, John, or just for, or Kim, just for noting as well? Okay, them three pieces, members, before you. Councillor Green.
Thank you. It was in relation to, or maybe I've missed the potential refunds from EE.
Yep.
I'm again disappointed with their letter. They just fogged us off. It's almost the exact identical letter from the last time they sent. So once again, big business just treating local government with contempt.
Okay, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Oh, sorry, I thought I turned it on there. Sorry.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question of Kim in relation to this. Like, I know, like many others, my area, the mobile phone signal is absolutely atrocious. You're doing well if you've got one bar. Can we engage more with these providers, maybe over this mandate, to see, put it on our agenda? That's something that we want to work on, to identify the areas where there's such poor signal that, like in rural areas, people are at a detriment to others, and we're paying the same as everyone else for their coverage and for their phone. Do you need that proposed, or?
Yes, we can take a proposal on that, but we can we can work with government departments around wider infrastructural improvements.
Yeah, because I did look at some of the, maybe that's tomorrow night. There was information that did come back from the providers showing maps and so on of the coverage and that they provide. It was very, very hard to even read what they were trying to say. They sent us maps, but they were really illegible. They were poor. So I think it's really important for our district to focus on that. But happy to.
Can we take a proposal for noting those and that separate proposal?
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Councillor Warrington.
Yeah, well, you know, the maps that has been mentioned, you know, they're never accurate anyway, because they're obviously prepared by somebody not familiar with the area, and they're going to be overly exaggerated. Mobile phone companies, the way they will look at it, and I know it doesn't answer our questions here today, but they'll look at the area and they will look at the potential of how many customers they can get in that area. And if they see it as an area with very limited potential for customers, they will concentrate on other areas that is more. Unfortunately, it's an area that I've worked in for a long time. And know a wee bit, and they just don't care about the rural areas. We've been, certainly as a council, I know we've been onto them since the start of the combined council in 2014, and in my previous employment, we have been highlighting it for numerous years, but unfortunately we don't get anywhere. Thank you.
Are you happy to second those proposals, Victor? Okay, thank you. You've already been on, Councillor Green. I'll give you a sentence.
Thank you. It's just on what Victor said there. I presume all mobile providers need a license from government, I would presume, to operate that. So would there be any point in us writing to government and asking them that when they're providing these licenses, that they actually insist that these mobile companies provide coverage to rural areas such as Fermanagh? I would propose that we write that to whichever is a relevant government department.
Okay, thank you, Seamus. Can we have a seconder for that letter? Seconder for that one, please, members, just. Councillor Anne Marie Donnelly, thank you. Okay, 10.5, members, that takes us to consider correspondence dated the 9th of May from Department for Communities regarding the local labour market partnership. Post pause for 23-24.
Yeah.
That's for noting, member. Kim, did you want?
Well, just to note, this is one of the impacts of the budgetary situation, and this is a fairly new initiative, but unfortunately it's not, there's a pause in terms of providing us with the ongoing funding resource to take forward the work, so it's disappointing.
For noting, members, please. Proposer, Councillor Rainey, and a seconder. For that, please, members. Seconder for that, please, members. Councillor Warrington, thank you. 10.6 is to consider the following items of correspondence from Department for the Economy. 10.61 is correspondence dated the 10th of May from Nigel Robbins regarding post-project evaluation of Project Stratum. 10.61. As for noting, members, is there anybody to propose to note, please? Councillor Hodgson Kelly, thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Catherine Kelly, thank you. And 10.62 is correspondence dated the 11th of May from Mike Brennan, Permanent Secretary, regarding the independent review of Invest NI. And that's for noting as well. Proposer, please. Councillor Stephen Donnelly, and a seconder. Councillor McElduff, thank you. We're getting through them now, members. 10.8 is correspondence dated the 12th of May from the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero regarding the Energy Bill Support Scheme. 10.8. For noting as well, please. Councillor Anne Marie Donnelly, and seconded. Councillor Rainey, thank you. 10.9 is correspondence dated the 25th of May from the Executive Office regarding the Good Relations Programme, reduction and budget. You've seen that at 10.9, members. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Chair, happy to propose noting, but just to make it's quite a sad observation that in the midst of having no government, while good relations is deteriorating on the ground, we're seeing reduction in the budget for the Good Relations Programme, and it's just not acceptable.
Thank you for that, Stephen. And a seconder, Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, I would share the disappointment, and maybe without going into detail of a specific issue to raise around good relations too, maybe to ask our director, maybe to feed back to me about an inquiry I made recently about a flag at the entrance to a new development, a shared development, and I don't want to draw undue attention to it, but it's causing great discomfort in the development that it's been marked out, as being one tradition when it's a very shared new development. So John will be able to figure out with Ellen and others, where I'm talking about, and maybe give me some feedback even privately as to how that might develop. Thank you.
You happy to second that
Yep.
piece there?
Yep.
Okay. And John, you'll... Okay, thank you. Get back to Councillor McElduff on that. I think that's us, members, at 10.10 is to consider correspondence dated the 5th of June from the Department for Communities regarding the publication of council performance investment plans. Just for noting as well. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Anne Marie Donnelly proposed, and a seconder. Councillor Gannon. Is there just Kim at 10.12? Is there just one more piece from the FC? I think we have covered 10, 11 earlier in the meeting. I've got, it's about Project Gigabit, but maybe we've covered that. All the correspondence covered. Okay. Item 11 is any urgent relevant business. I had no members contact me before the meeting. I think with that we can move to confidential. If I had a proposer, please to go on to confidential. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and seconded Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Just asked IT. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Councillor Green. Okay, okay. We're back live now, members. Okay, we're just going to sum up while it's in committee.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst in committee, members considered the confidential minutes of the Regeneration and Community meeting of Tuesday, the 14th of March 2023 and Thursday, the 30th of March 2023, and there were no matters arising. Members also considered an update on the progress of asserted public rights of way at Finnair Balik and at Ports Newton Butler and agreed to a course of action. Thank you, Chair. And Chair, just in relation to Councillor Green's comments, we have no information yet on how much it cost, but I'm sure we can gather that through time. Like, you know.
We need a proposer to note that update, Councillor Gannon, and a seconder, Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Thank you, members, for your help tonight, and a safe home. Thanks to our staff as well. Okay.